1. Moles and Equations Part 1. Basically, we have 6 targets in this chapter, but we are going to study only 2 in this video and the rest in the next videos. If you have any doubt at the end of the video, don't hesitate to email me, as I will do a Q&A on this part later. Without further ado, let's start. The targets are: define and use the terms relative atomic mass, isotopic mass, and formula mass based on the carbon-12 scale. Define and use the empirical formula and the molecular formula. Define and use the mole in terms of the Avogadro constant. And finally, analyze and use mass spectra to calculate the relative atomic mass. What is the relative atomic mass and how is it useful? In order to perform chemical calculations, it is important that we know how heavy an atom is compared with the other atoms. So scientists have developed the idea of relative atomic mass, where one atom of carbon-12 have an atomic mass of 12 units, and from this, scientists were able to give every atom its own atomic mass by comparing each atom to carbon. Now you know about the relative atomic mass, let's talk about the isotopic mass. Isotopes are atoms of the same element but have different nucleon number and therefore different relative atomic mass. This means that isotopes have the same number of protons but different number of neutrons. The nucleon number is the number of protons plus the number of neutrons in an atom. The isotopic mass is the atomic mass of an isotope of a particular element. For example, carbon-12 have an isotopic mass of 12 units, but carbon-13 have an isotopic mass of 13 units. But beware that different isotopes don't have different chemical properties. Now let's define the empirical formula. The empirical formula of a compound is the simplest whole number ratio of the elements present in one molecule or formula unit of the compound, whereas the molecular formula of a compound shows the total number of atoms of each element present in a molecule. So for example, the molecular formula of butane is C4H10, while its empirical formula is C2H5. Don't forget to keep in mind that the formula for an ionic compound is always its empirical formula. The empirical formula and molecular formula for simple inorganic molecules are often the same. Organic molecules often have different empirical and molecular formula. Now we will talk about the mole, but you have to focus first. We have talked about the relative atomic and molecular masses. We also said that one carbon atom have an atomic mass of 12 units. But how many atoms of carbon do we need to get 12 grams of carbon? Exactly, 6.02 multiplied by 10 raised to the power 23. And this number is called the Avogadro constant, after the famous scientist Avogadro. From this, the formula of a mole arises as follows. 1 mole of a substance is the amount of that substance that has the same number of specific particles as there are atoms in exactly 12 grams of the carbon-12 isotope. Finally, we will talk about the spectrometer and how to find the relative atomic mass from spectra. This is a simplified diagram of a mass spectrometer. It can be used to measure the mass of each isotope present in an element and also compare how much of each isotope is present. You don't have to learn how it works, but it is useful to understand how the results are obtained. The atoms of the element in the vaporized sample are converted into ions. The stream of ions is brought to the detector after being deflected by a strong magnetic field. As the magnetic field is increased, the ions of heavier and heavier isotopes are brought to the detector. The detector is connected to a computer which displays the mass spectrum. This mass spectrum of neon is obtained from the spectrometer and can be used to find the percentage of an isotope in a sample of neon or the average relative atomic mass of neon, and that is 20.2 units. If you like the content, press the thumbs up button. If you have any questions, inquiries or suggestions, send me an email. My email is in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Also don't forget to study and that education is light.